live. We just had technical difficulties. We probably will have technical difficulties every single time until we're professionals, because
Yeah.
that's just what happens. I feel like I teach remote. I had to start teaching remote last year, and um, I feel like every time I had the perfect setup with like one screen had the students' faces, one screen had the problems and my whiteboard, one screen had myself. Um, Something would toggle or update or whatever, and then it'd screw up and I'd have to change it all again. And then like you'd finally get the microphone good, and then the video would mess up. And it's just like it's kind of part of I guess the transition. Eventually everything will be seamless, but I feel like Zoom and Google Meet is like constantly upgrading as everyone's using it. So it's hard to like fix something as there's millions of people using it.
Yeah, well, so you got that. Then you have the human error. You keep yourself on mute, and you're 2 minutes into your point, and the people are frantically waving at you to stop talking or take yourself off mute. Or I know this summer in particular, in general, dealing with COVID, and everything being remote, there were so many times where I was doing these types of meetings where it's video, and you catch a glimpse of yourself in the camera, and you're like, oh, that's what I look like. Maybe I should sit up a little bit more, or smile a little bit. So it's there's the glitches, there's the human error. It's all part of the new frontier that we'll be living through.
Yep, exactly. So I guess we didn't even really officially introduce. So to get started, I'm Jeremy. You're Jack. We are going to be called the Jack and Jer Podcast for now. Basically, we just met a couple months ago. We've every time we've seen each other, we've had really, really good conversations encompassing a range of topics from self-help stuff, business, entrepreneurship, COVID, health stuff, fitness stuff, Philly stuff, all of that. And we end up talking for hours and hours. A lot of it, I think, is valuable. I learn a lot from you whenever we talk. So I've been looking into or thinking about trying to start a podcast for about like 4 years now, mostly because Gary Vee, I think, said like 5 years ago, like podcasts are the future. He was definitely right. Props to him. But basically, I've been like thinking about it. I started one with my friend just very loosely about like 3 years ago. We would talk about crypto a lot. We ended up just like recording stuff about crypto because it was like the hot thing to do then, but never really pursued it. Although like we're on the Apple Store or wherever you download the podcast. Is pretty fun, learned a lot. But I think I was ready to like kind of dive more into it. So when I was talking to Jack, I said like, hey, basically you want to do it? And you said yeah right away, which was awesome. And then the next day you even like followed up about it. And then I think that's huge. Like a lot of people will say yeah, and then kind of nothing happens from me or from the other person. So basically kind of new year, both of us, I think, had like a change in trajectory of our jobs and businesses. So why not just start off a podcast? Anything to add, Jack?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback onto that. I feel the same way. I feel like every time we talked, I had really good conversations about a number of subjects. And I recently have taken a lot of time to do some, for lack of a better word, soul searching, personal development things. And the one thing I want to talk about briefly or just bring up is one of the pieces of feedback that I got, because I reached out to about 28 people that have known me for at least a couple of years. I've worked with, could be my best friend, could be family, and I asked them for a few pieces of feedback on how I can improve as a person. One of my best friends, the piece of advice that he gave me was just to act, just to do things. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Don't try to overthink things. Just act. Just get started. Build the momentum. And so, Jeremy, when you asked me to do this with you, I immediately said yes. Like I said, I think we've had great conversations, and part of my 2021 goal, and life moving forward is, I want to continue to build momentum. I want to or not be afraid to make mistakes and learn from them, and just learn and experience new things and tackle what's ever ahead of us. So, I think I speak for both of us when we say we don't know what this is going to turn into, but it's about the journey. And, if we can have some good conversations along the way, then, the more the merrier. But I'm excited to get started.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we met last week, just to like talk things over and like not really plan, but figure out how we're gonna record and all that. And just from that conversation and getting started today, I think I've already learned even more just about how Zoom and Google Meet works, and just like planning and strategizing how we're gonna edit this and all of that. So already I've had takeaways, so no regrets at all. I guess to begin though, or to start, we were thinking of just, I guess, like introducing ourselves, talking a little bit about ourselves, so that people, in the beginning, most people who listen are probably going to know exactly who we are. But eventually, hopefully, there'll be people who don't know us, and they could listen to this episode and get a little introduction to see who we are. So, like I said, my name is Jeremy. I live in Philadelphia. Came here about 15 years ago. That's crazy. To go to Temple University, and basically majored in finance and information systems. When I was done with college, I kind of wasn't ready to get a 9 to 5. I still don't think I'm ready to get a 9 to 5, but basically delayed that. So first went to Hawaii and worked on a farm, which definitely like changed my point of view on a lot of things. I lived there for about 6 weeks. Worked on a kava farm, which is like a anti-anxiety type of tea that people drink. Then basically got accepted to an alternate route program to become a teacher, where I was like a math teacher at literally the most dangerous middle school in Philadelphia. And it was definitely dangerous, and it was definitely eye-opening. I went to a high school that wasn't the best, and I thought like, oh, I know what I'm getting into, and I had no idea. It was just the wildest thing ever. I'll get more into that maybe another time, but definitely eye-opening. I got out of there real quick, and basically went to a charter school, which I definitely was kind of opposed to going into, like the whole idea of the charter school movement. Once I was there, I'm not completely opposed to it. You could at least get some teaching done there, which was nice, but there's definitely a lot of things about it that I didn't really agree with. But overall, it was like a better place for kids and for teachers. It was great for me to develop and like really hone my skills as a teacher, which was cool. Got my master's at Drexel for education, and then took about a year off of school before going back to get my MBA. So I started my MBA while I was still at Mastery, and then basically a year into that, decided I think I want to maybe get into business a little bit more. I went to the Forbes conference, 30 Under 30, and that kind of got me like more back intrigued into my business mindset. So I stopped teaching Mastery, started teaching at Community College of Philadelphia just as an adjunct part-time. Do you have something to say?
No, I will. Yeah, no, just continue.
My bad. And then basically was teaching part-time and started an Airbnb business. I was into real estate a little bit, but decided to go more into that full-fledged, and was Airbnb-ing. So I ended up Airbnb-ing. We had 7 properties. We had 25 rooms, like 35 beds. We're definitely growing, which was awesome. We definitely had plenty of struggles, as most small businesses and startups do. But I feel like we were really figuring them out, and last year I think we were like ready to really take the next step. It seemed like we fixed a lot of those small things, and maybe ready to take on more properties, more investors, more locations, all that. And then, dun dun dun, COVID happened. And basically we were done, more or less, or like waiting, because like there's not too many short-term rentals, at least for good profit in Philly right now, not worth the struggle. So we changed to long-term rentals. I got a job at Temple University. I'm waiting for another assignment from CCP, hopefully eventually, but they don't have as high enrollment right now. And that's basically what brings me here. So I'm right now teaching at Temple, still involved with real estate a little bit, but not as much. And then trying to get into podcasting more, as well as been like experimenting a little bit with supplements and starting a small supplement company, hopefully, or not hopefully, which will take off this year.
Awesome. Well, I appreciated learning that. There's a lot that I didn't know about you.
Nice.
So I'll get started then.
Yep, let's hear it.
Yeah, so my name's Jack Tannenbaum, currently 29 years old. I was born and raised in the suburbs of Philly to Jewish parents. I, starting in fifth grade, started attending private school. Looking back, it's kind of clear that I grew up in a more affluent area. Definitely feel very fortunate for the opportunities that my family provided me. While in school, I really wasn't motivated to do any type of schoolwork. I was a typical, I don't even want to say jock guy, but for me, it was waiting, counting down the hours until when I was younger, gym class or recess, and then as I got older, playing sports. And I don't think you could have paid me to open up a book more than an hour before a final. I have distinct memories of finals or exams before various classes where I'd open the textbook for the first time to just scan whatever I could. And it just wasn't a part of my life. But something that was a major part of my life was my grandfather. And his name was Miles Tannenbaum. And he told me so many stories of his life and what it was like for him. And he grew up during the Great Depression. He told me stories, everything from growing up in the Great Depression in New York, I think in Brooklyn, to be exact, and having neighborhood birthdays where once a week, all the kids had a birthday, or once every couple of weeks, wherever it was, they'd have a can of pineapple juice as their what we now say like birthday cake. Told me stories of those, told me stories of how he worked himself, got himself into Penn Law, and worked his way through, and how the people he met there and what he learned was just completely instrumental for him becoming successful. And I grew up on stories, or his stories, and he was truly larger than life in my eyes. And I loved all my grandparents, I love all my family, but me and him really had a special relationship that I didn't even realize how special it was until, unfortunately, when he passed. But kind of jumping ahead a little bit, so yeah, growing up, I never really cared about anything besides sports or watching sports, and all of that may have been a distraction, because I realized, or not that I realized, but my dad had a lot of issues. He's a good person, but he had issues while I was growing up. He, starting at 13 years old, I believe, had diabetes, and when I was growing up, he would have high and low blood sugar swings. And just had a number of memories of him having really bad low blood sugar. And if you know anyone that's had low blood sugar, you've seen them, it can be very similar to them being drunk. And looking back, I don't want to say it was traumatic, but there was a lot of not so good memories. And then additionally, he had some issues with alcohol, And I don't know if sports was just an escape, and I just wasn't interested in spending the time in solitude with academics. But I was all over the place in middle and high school. I got arrested a couple times in high school. And yeah, so thank God for some good lawyers out there that helped me out. But the first real pivotal moment in my life was I had applied to Syracuse University, early decision, and I was told by my college counselor that even before I applied early decision, that it should be not necessarily a safety, but it should be a very not reachable, but a school I should get into. Someone else had applied the year before with lower marks than mine, and so it seemed like it was going to be. It was going to happen. I applied there because I didn't really want to apply to that many schools. I just kind of wanted to get the process over with, and I remember it being a mid-December day. My parents had just gone out to dinner, and I got the email that I had gotten rejected. And I think applications were due in like 2 weeks, and I didn't even have the Common App filled out. I had nothing. That's the type of student I was. I had no work done, wasn't prepared, wasn't even thinking anything more than 6 inches in front of my face. And I remember sitting there in my room with the computer in front of me, thinking about what I had done to get to this point, and realizing that the success that my grandfather and my dad and the people that I had known that they had could not have been the byproduct of doing average to below average work. That if I wanted to have a above average life, I needed to have a above average work ethic, and I needed to begin to grind. And I think I must have been the only person in my high school that scored noticeably better in their grades in the second half of senior year than they did in the first half of senior year. But I started to kind of put myself on a mission. And I was lucky enough that I got into Florida State University, which as a Philly boy, being able to go down to Florida for school was amazing. And so I get down to FSU, and I had one goal when I got down to FSU, and that was to follow my grandfather's footsteps and get into Penn Law. And I became obsessed with filling out the pedigree. I got super involved on campus, became president of my dorm, got involved in student senate, did that for 4 years, was one of the committee chairmen. I rose the ranks of the largest single-day community service organization at FSU. I co-founded an organization at FSU. I think I graduated with 400 to 500 hours of community service. And I just got super involved. And I think my second to last year there, my grandfather, who had begun to, who was inflicted with Alzheimer's and so therefore dementia, he had passed. And that was super emotional for me. It was at his funeral. The hardest I think I've ever cried. It's when I realized that I really had a special relationship with him, because so many people would tell me I had a special relationship with him, and it was one of those things, I guess, that outsiders have a better grasp on than when you are, especially when you're younger. And so that was a super pivotal moment in my life. And I think the year after that was the year I graduated from FSU, and and that year I had applied to Penn Law early decision, and I got accepted. And so it was the one goal I had, and I did it. But I realized looking back that I was way too hyper-focused on just checking off boxes on my resume, because I thought that that's what society wanted in order for me to become this idea of success, and essentially the complete opposite of who I was in high school. And while I was at FSU, actually, I started a nonprofit, and that was the second most pivotal moment, or not moment, but experience of my life, because I did it for a few years. It was actually in the honor of my grandfather. It essentially was just a flag football philanthropy where we raised tens of thousands of dollars through admission fees and just raising money, letter writing campaign, getting contributions donated, so on and so forth. But the thing I learned about it was everyone's just winging it. I remember thinking that, people, especially adults, because I was 20 years old at the time, 19, I don't know, that they had this game plan or script that they were following. And I remember asking questions to my dad, to my dad's friends who are lawyers and successful about what to do. And they just kept shrugging and being like, you could do this, you could do that. And it became abundantly clear that like everyone is just winging it. They're just taking their best guess at it. And it was something that kind of stuck with me, that, hey, we're kind of all just figuring this out as we go. So I got myself into Penn Law, and wow, kids there are so smart. I don't want to say I didn't fit in, but yeah. So I get there and work hard. I'm sure I academically didn't do as good as much of my classmates, but I did well enough to get myself into a good law firm in New York City, and I hated that. I hated being a lawyer, and that's
what
when
type of law?
I was doing corporate law, so it was transactional work. I was a generalist. I thought it was something that I would like, doing a little bit of everything. So I did some M&A work. I did some securities work. I did some debt finance. I did actually some cryptocurrency work, which was really cool. But I started really getting this feeling that I was like living someone else's life, that I was stuck in the force of the inertia of my previous decisions. And I really need to get out. It made me feel almost like claustrophobic. Fortunately, before I had gotten there, through a friend, I had ended up actually almost accidentally co-founding this startup called Figo. And what Figo does is we are a software company that helps direct to consumer companies with their ordering and dispatching of their orders. And in Mexico, the idea was that, and that's where the company operated, in Mexico. The idea is that people don't have potable, so drinkable tap water. And so all their water essentially needs to be delivered, or they need to pick it up in stores or something. Unless you're the richest of the rich, where you have a special filtration system, or the poorest of the poor, you are not drinking the tap. And also gas used for cooking and other household functions like heating water and things like that also needs to be delivered. I think it's only 7% of homes have natural gas pipelines into their homes. So they have gas stoves, but they have these giant propane tanks hooked up to their homes, or these almost like barbecue, smaller propane cylinders that they get delivered. And the idea was that instead of these people having to flag down these trucks on the street, we would work with those providers to onboard them to our marketplace and make it a lot easier for people to order. But I actually left law and went down and moved to Puebla, Mexico to do that. And I really didn't know any Spanish when I did it. So I was a true fish out of water. And I was down there for almost a year when COVID hit. And the company was doing really well. We were growing 20%, 30% month over month. And COVID hit, and I had to get out. So I come back to Philly, and I'm sure like a lot of us, I thought that this was going to be, 3-month, 4-month thing tops. And, it's been 9 months and I'm still here. And especially towards this past fall, I really hit a dark point in my life. The company was at a point where we weren't able to raise money, and we had only a few months of runway, so money remaining to pay for our expenses. And we had to make a really tough decision of either stick to the course that looked pretty bleak, or we had to pivot and do a different path. And we had at this point brought on about 20-something employees, and we had to lay them off. And these were people that I worked with, that I managed, and my Spanish was good enough where I could actually talk to them. And it was really, really hard to tell people that had done everything right, and the results just really hadn't come in as expected, especially because during COVID. Tell all these people that we had to let them go during the worst financial period the world's seen in since 2008, I guess. And that really hit a blow. A lot of the things that I was working on, or pretty much all of them, no longer were necessary because the company was going to go in a different direction. I lost my sense of purpose. What I was doing 10 hours a day no longer needed to be done. So I had to refigure out what to do. My self-worth and confidence and everything, it plummeted, not kind of plummeted, it completely plummeted. And I went to a really dark space for a while. And I think going through that dark time, and I'm hoping that was my rock bottom, really made me realize a few things in life. And the first and perhaps most powerful one that I learned, which is the third most pivotal moment of my life, was even if like a company were to come out of nowhere and buy us, I don't know if an extra couple $1,000,000, or I actually know this. I know a couple $1,000,000 in the bank account wouldn't actually impact my mental health. That's pretty much where I was. I needed to really address the way I was living and where I got my sense of purpose from, and find ways to fulfill my potential outside of chasing a big payday and trying to do something super cool like starting a company and selling it. And once I started making some of these realizations, I really started turning over a new leaf. And that's kind of where I am now. I'm super committed to self-development, self-help. I'm back to really good morning routine and reading and starting to work hard again. And I'm just really just trying. I've changed the way like my internal dialogue, not speaking negatively about myself, no judgment being cast either about myself or others. And I'm just really excited for the first time in a while about what the future holds. I know COVID is, kind of a kick in the ass for all of us, but I have a lot of hope, and I feel like I am, I feel like I'm starting to become the person that I need to become. And so that's a lot. I talk for way too long, but
No such
that's
thing as too long.
that's why we're podcasting. But
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's my background story in a nutshell.
Nice. I like it. What's called? I feel like I should have like cut you off at certain points when I had different questions, or to like go into certain points, but because I'm new to this, so I'll figure out how to do that best. It's like hard to cut someone off while they're mid talking. A couple things I like did write down. Now they like seem super random, but one thing was like, what sports did you play in high school?
I was primarily a lacrosse player. I actually, even though FSU was club, this is before the 2008-2009 financial crisis, got recruited, quote unquote, to play at FSU. So I was really hoping they'd go D1. They didn't. I stopped playing. But yeah, I was a lacrosse guy.
Nice. That's what's up. I like that. What's called another thing? What was the nonprofit? I don't know if you said it, and maybe I wasn't paying too much attention while you're explaining. But what exactly was the nonprofit?
So the nonprofit was called Football Stars. So think football, except at the ball part, it's BALZ, like ALZ for Alzheimer's, and then just stars, STARS, all one word. I thought it was clever at the time, and then you tell people that, and people can't figure out how to spell it, and there's something to be said about having a name that people actually know how to spell and pronounce.
Yeah, interesting. That's definitely interesting. My grandfather had ALS as well, actually. So something in common, not the most fun thing in common. What's it called? Something else. You mentioned mental health. Mental health is definitely something that's been on my radar for a while. I think it's related. I quit drinking 2 years ago. Yeah, last week. So I think that was huge for my mental health. I don't even think I was aware of mental health before I quit drinking. I was just drinking all the time. But I feel like my eyes really opened after that of like how unconscious I was with a lot of things. And since then, it's been a big journey of just figuring myself out, self-awareness, spiritual, just a lot of stuff, and like kind of my fitness journey and all of that. And that's just been really exciting. as well as I actually got a coach, which kind of like helped me, kind of got me to realize I needed to stop drinking. And then I really liked the whole coaching process. I feel like until I stopped drinking, I kind of thought I was good at like everything, or like good enough at like basically everything. And I think that um, just being okay with everything kind of ended up hurting me eventually, and like really yeah, just like basically having a couple hard years where like when I was 20, 21, 22, I was like making more money than I could spend, having a shitload of fun, basically like kind of felt invincible, and then realized I wasn't invincible older. I don't know exactly where I was getting at with that, but basically just like wanted to keep developing, and needed someone to kind of tell me how to develop instead of like figuring out yourself, because the internet's a great resource, but if you don't know what to search on the internet, it doesn't really matter. So like they actually got me big into reading, big into meditating, and big into yoga, just kind of like meditating also. But I think those three things were very influential in like getting me onto just a different path. And I think you mentioned routine. Was like what you're getting back into, and I think kind of same thing with meditating, yoga, and all that. Whatever it is in your routine, I think the first thing to do when you're trying to start like getting better is starting a routine, no matter what it is. It could be like waking up at the same time. Just make sure like you wake up at the same time every day and start with that. And then like I like a book I read was called Atomic Habits, and they talk about habit stacking, where it's like, so start with waking up at 8, and then with waking up at 8, write in your journal when you wake up at 8, and then after you write in your journal, meditate, and then after you write in your journal, meditate, and then run, and basically like start there and just keep on stacking, and before you know it, you'll have like a dope routine, and other things will kind of align.
Yeah,
And that,
no,
go ahead.
I didn't know. I've heard great things about that book. It's actually, I'm reading a book right now, but Atomic Habits is the second one, or the next book I want to read. I've read a lot what a lot of people have said about the book. It is supposed to be really powerful. One thing I want to add on to that about building habits for the three people that are listening is
Hey, Mom.
Yeah, hey mom,
Hey, Mr. Tannenbaum.
Yeah, exactly. Is one of the things that I found very powerful was I had experience being hyper productive. I had experience of waking up at 6 a.m. and doing the things I needed personally, working out and reading and whatever, and then working really hard at my job, and then getting back and falling asleep early, and not watching TV, not spending time on social media. I had those times of being super productive, but as I was pulling myself out of the rut I was in, a friend had talked to me, and he told me, so you have to stop being so hard on yourself. And one of the things that really helped me, for if anyone's listening, I don't know, it may help you as well, is I realized I didn't need to become hyper productive again to begin my path towards becoming a better me. And I just every day would just basically turn the clock back an hour. And it started off really simple. Like, all I care about tomorrow is I'm going to get up at the time I say I'm going to get up. I'm going to do my full morning routine. I'm going to wake up. I keep a dream journal just because it's easier for me to write a bit when it's a dream journal than to just transcribe my thoughts. So I do a little bit of writing. I meditate. I read. I started getting into affirmations and visualizations, but I did my routine. I exercised. And then it started off as like, just get to noon. Get to noon with like an hour of productive work. And then after a couple of days, it was like, get to 1 p.m., get to 2 p.m. And I told myself, if I got to noon or 1 p.m., whatever the time period was, it's okay if I melted into the couch. It's okay if I did whatever. I wasn't going to judge myself on that part of the day. I was only going to judge myself on the beginning part of the day. And by giving myself that leeway and like acknowledging that I wasn't ready yet for 12 hours of productivity, I wasn't ready for, version 10.0 of Jack's Animom. I needed to start at 1.0. That gave me the confidence to start building those habits because I didn't have the negative self-talk. I didn't make myself feel bad for not being that person. And so I just wanted to add that in there when it comes to like habits and stuff, because I know personally that the times where I was like, I need to eat every vegetable and I need to read 100 pages and I need to, stretch and, 10 hours of quality work uninterrupted and blah, 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 blah. I know when I would tell myself that Sunday night and then Monday, I'd get to 4 p.m. and start dying or 6, whatever it was. I would talk shit about myself. And it didn't help. So it's one thing that I learned that I think is I'm going to hold on to for a long time, that I think is incredibly valuable for people that are trying to stack those habits.
Definitely, I agree. What's it called? I think we've been going for about 35 minutes or so, and I think we talked about ourselves. We got a little bit about routines. Unless there's something else you want to talk about, I think that's probably a pretty good first session.
Our family members are probably waiting for this to die to stop
no, but I think that's a good session. I learned a lot, and then next time we can kind of go open-ended. But I think personally, I like to listen to a podcast probably like from 10 to 30 minutes, which I don't think ours should just be limited to 10 to 30. But I kind of like that range. Where it's like you're going to work or like a quick workout or run or something. But like getting close to an hour is cool, but I just feel like it's long. But again, I don't really care too much.
Yeah, so I think it was a great spot, great place to stop. And for everyone that was listening at home, thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Yep, and Much More Microdoses. We're sponsored by. Reach out if you're interested. Much More Microdoses. What's it called?